everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Sharon and this is a channel that is dedicated to all things related to narcissism. I make videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on all types of topics related to narcissism, so if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. I would really appreciate it if you gave the video a thumbs up. It's a free way you can help me out, and definitely don't forget to leave a comment because I like to read what you have to say. So before I get into today's video, because it's Friday, I'm going to go ahead and give you the Friday update. For those of you that don't know, I'm in the process of right now of trying to escape with my children so I can file for divorce from my ex. I live in a state, and I think all states are like this, but in my state, definitely. I live in a state where, because one of my children is a minor, my ex can have control over my life until my minor child is 18. My ex doesn't have anything. I have two kids. My daughter's 18, my son is 15. I'm not counting her because she's aged out, so he doesn't have anything to say about her. But for my son, now my ex has nothing to do with my children, not one thing. He doesn't talk to them. He doesn't see them. I mean, he doesn't even email them, text them. There's like Christmas comes, he doesn't even get them a gift. Their birthday, he completely ignores it. This is how he is. So there's zero communication with him. However, at the same time, and I know this sounds nuts, but for those of you involved with narcissists, you can understand like their train of thought. He believes, so even though we've been separated for 2 full years, he believes that we're going to get back together, that it's literally only a matter of time. I am still a source of supply for him. He wants to keep the marriage going. So he doesn't interfere with the things that I do with the kids. However, once he finds out that I'm filing for divorce, he is going to lose it. And I'm afraid at that point, he's going to suddenly take advantage of all the control he can have. That's what narcissists do. They enjoy having control. My ex will enact vengeance on me when I dare to file divorce. So all of a sudden, the child he doesn't care about, he's going to suddenly take a great interest in him. And my ex will have a say in where I live, what type of housing I provide for my child. I homeschool my kids. He'll be able to tell me all of a sudden he's not in agreement with that. He could decide that he doesn't like the doctor I go to, the dentist I go to. I paid $5,000 for orthodontic care for my son. My ex could suddenly decide he doesn't like that orthodontist. Now, this doesn't mean that everything that he says is going to happen, but I would have to take him to court over and over and over. It took so much for me to scrape together the $3,000 to pay my attorney just to file for the divorce, to have to constantly go back to court over things like this. I will be a wreck after 3 years. I don't even know if I'd survive it. It would be so bad, and he will do every single thing he can to make my life miserable. He's not going to care how it affects his children. It doesn't matter. He doesn't have a care or concern for them anyways. So, on the advice of my attorney, what I'm doing is I'm leaving the state, then I'm going to file for divorce. So I'm leaving the state at the end of December. So between now and then, I am living on pins and needles. It's so stressful. I'm so scared. Anything could go wrong at any moment. But I had to tell my kids this. I had to let them understand what was happening because we can't tell anybody. We're literally going to leave, like just leave. At the end of December, we're going to just leave and nobody's going to know until we cross the state line. So this is the situation that I'm in. But I need to start getting stuff prepared. I mean, as it is, I'm going to end up leaving a lot of stuff behind. There's only so much I can take. So I'm going to rent a storage unit this weekend and put stuff in it, and I'm going to take what I can. But essentially, I'm running to save my life and my children's life. We're escaping. Like literally, we are escaping. We're going to go to Joe's house, and I'm taking what I can, my kids and my animals. That's what is happening. So I had to tell my kids, and I was terrified to tell my kids. I told you last Friday, especially my son, I was dreading telling him. I knew my daughter was going to take it a lot better, and she did take it well. I told her last Friday, and she took it well. She was a little bit sad, but she also said to me, Mom, we got to get rid of him, like whatever we have to do. So she understood. My son, I was terrified. I didn't want to tell him, and I kept putting it off, and then finally I told him 2 days ago. And oh my gosh, Joe can tell you, I was in a panic. I was so scared, but it went well. My son took it really well. I know that was divine intervention because I know my son, and I really expected my daughter too. I told her, I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to tell your brother, that we're moving. I was like, I'm going to tell him this morning. And she said, oh, he's going to take it really badly. What should we do? She was worried about him too. We were both worried about him. He was all right. He said basically the same thing that my daughter said. Whatever we have to do, Mom, let's just do it. So, it's all right. So thank God I have my children on board, and we are just going to make it through December and then get out of here. And finally, we will be free. I can't wait. I've been living in what is like a prisoner of war, like a hostage situation for a long time, really for 20 years. Now, like in retrospect, when I look back and I think of all the things that I've gone through, all the things I tried to make a marriage work when it was really only me and the marriage in the first place. But that's part of why I have this channel, because I want people to know these things earlier than I did, because I do wish that I could go back in time, but obviously I can't, but I can make better choices going forward and hopefully help somebody else from continuing on a path that is only going to lead to ruin for them. So I'm going to go ahead and get into today's video. In today's video, I'm going to discuss narcissists and violence. So I'm going to come right out and state that I'm afraid of my ex. He's not well. He's abused me many times, both mentally and physically in the past. And I now believe that during the last few months of us living together, my kids and I were in danger several times. I'm going to get more into that as the video progresses. Right now, I'm going to begin by talking about who a narcissist really is. Who is the narcissist? At their core, narcissists are characterized by a sense of entitlement. They have grandiose self-views, a sense of superiority, abusive authority, and control of other people. They have an excessive need for admiration. They're vain. They have an absolute intolerance for criticism, a selfish orientation, and a complete lack of empathy for other people. They're jerks. And obviously, I'm being polite putting it that way. I think it's important to truly take in and meditate on how I describe them. Narcissists believe this 100%, that they're better than everybody. They're better than you, their kids, the President of the United States, Nobel Prize winners, everybody. Not only that, they don't care about anybody except themselves. So they don't ever feel empathy. There's no compassion, none. Ultimately, they don't care what happens to you, how you feel, ever. Yesterday, I was telling Joe about how grateful to God I was when I had my son. I was grateful for my daughter too, don't get me wrong. I mentioned my son because I had secondary infertility and I couldn't get pregnant, and I was distraught. And I don't even know if there's a strong enough word to tell you how upset I was when I couldn't get pregnant. When you hear it said that God won't give you anything more than you can handle, I feel that that's how I got my child, because God knew I couldn't handle not having that second child. I feel for anybody who is struggling with infertility. That is horrible. It is just, when you want a child so badly and you can't get pregnant, your arms ache for that child. When you see a pregnant woman or you see an infant, your body reacts. It's so horrible. And then people will try to make you feel better. Well, at least you have one child. Yeah, I know, and I'm grateful for my one child, but that's not making me feel better about not having the second one. I was always grateful for my first child. I was grateful I had one child, but when you need to have that other one, and maybe there's something wrong with me to need this child so bad, but for the point of what I'm saying, it was horrible, and I was distraught. It was just terrible. I never needed somebody more in my entire life than I needed my husband. And he was not there ever to give me a kind word. And no comfort. He was cruel, abusive. He taunted me while I was struggling with infertility. When I had my child, there was one moment when I was home from the hospital and I had this infant in my arms and I had him against my chest and I was on my knees on the floor, thanking God. Love was pouring out of me. I was so emotional. I was sobbing on the floor, holding this child. I was so grateful. And I wanted to give this child everything in the world. I wanted to have this child to have a perfect life. I wanted to be a great mom. I had all these plans for my son and my daughter. My ex took all of it away, everything. And I couldn't do the things I wanted to do for my child because my ex is so deranged. But at that same moment, when here I was on the floor sobbing with love and joy and peace, my husband at the time didn't care at all. What he cared about was that finally I would shut up and he wouldn't have to deal with me being upset. He was not going to ever be there for me. He never was there for me. So his joy at having a child was that I wasn't distraught anymore. And it's not because he loved me and he was so worried about me and is happy that finally I had something that I wanted. No, he was upset because it interfered with his life. He didn't know why I had to do this, why I need to have a second baby. Just have the one. Just have the one and shut up about it. That's how he felt. That's how a narcissist is. It's upsetting to accept the truth about a narcissist, but so much in your life depends on that. If you aren't careful, you will waste your entire life on one of these things. They're playing a role, not just for us, but for everybody in their life. Who they are underneath the mask is a complete mystery. Now, I personally am not a violent person, but like everybody else, there are situations when I could be. So if somebody breaks into my house, my safety and my kid's safety would be threatened, and I would not hesitate to shoot an intruder. I would also not hesitate to shoot an animal that was trying to get into my chicken coop outside. I would protect my family and my animals with lethal force if I had to. Now, Joe asked me one time when I was telling him this, well, wouldn't you just aim for the leg, or wouldn't you just aim to hurt somebody? Why would you aim to kill them? And I told him, well, for a couple of reasons. One, when you have training in how to safely use a gun, they tell you a couple things right off the bat. You never put your finger on the trigger until you are ready to shoot, ever. And the other thing is you have to aim to kill, because you have to aim at the chest, because it's not easy to hit a target. Now, maybe if you're like a fantastic shot, I would tell you that I'm probably an average shot. But in a stressful situation, I'm probably a poor shot. If you're at the range and it's not stressful at the range, here you are, you're having fun, and you have your little paper person, and you're trying to aim at the heart. It's not easy to hit it. If I'm there for like an hour, hour and a half, I probably hit the heart like 2 or 3 times. It's not easy. There's like holes all over the paper. Now, if you're in a stressful situation and your family is, you could have somebody charging at you. This person could have a weapon themselves. Your family's life is at risk. You have to shoot to kill. You have to aim for the chest. Otherwise, you shouldn't even bother. You should just let them take you. So this is why. So, if that's a line that that's a line that I would cross. That's a line that I would feel it's necessary to use violence in that situation. Now, I don't want to panic anybody. This is just something to consider. Narcissists also have many lines that they will cross. And first off, a narcissist has very thin skin and fragile egos. They feel entitled to special treatment, and they feel a disdain for everybody in their life. So I just said that I'm protective of my safety and my kids' and animal safety. There's my line. Everyone has a line. What's a narcissist? Now, remember also that a narcissist doesn't have any empathy. They don't see you as human, as real, as somebody to protect. I mentioned at the beginning of the video that there were 2 times that I believe my kids and I were in danger. I'm going to tell you about them now. In December of 2019, my ex smashed his own head repeatedly on a wall and insisted, this was despite his own children being witnesses of this, that I threw him unprovoked into a wall. That was the final straw for me. I kicked him out that night permanently. This, however, was an unexpected event. He didn't know. I didn't know. He reacted the way that he did because I lost it verbally with him. It was a spontaneous decision he made to both hurt himself and then blame me. What happened was that I crossed a line. I offended him. I was not okay with him giving me a silent treatment, and I blew up at him. I told him he was a narcissist. I read him the riot act. He was enraged, and he wanted to hurt me. That's why he hurt himself and tried to get me arrested for it. This is what happened. Now, once I kicked him out of the house, all of a sudden, the next week, I started getting really bad news in my mailbox. Every day, it seemed, I'd get a new bill. He hadn't, essentially, My ex hadn't paid one bill, nothing, not one thing. So I was getting notices from the electric company telling me my power was going to cut off in 10 days. Not only that, I got a notice from my mortgage company. He hadn't paid the mortgage either. They were talking about foreclosure in the notice. I thought I was going to have a heart attack when I got that. I was so stressed out. I had found out my ex had $100,000 in credit card debt. He had no money. All of a sudden, here I am with my life in shambles, and he's deciding to pay nothing. Now, he had the money to pay the mortgage, but he decided not to pay it. I called him at work, and I was in panic, like a panic. So this is our conversation. So he answers the phone, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't you pay the mortgage? Why? I just got a notice in the mail that they're going to foreclose on the house. Why didn't you pay the mortgage? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Why would you do this? What? I need you to pay that mortgage. No. Like, I mean, this was my conversation with this person, this being. I mean, this is a narcissist at their core. This is who they are. He didn't care. He didn't care that I lived there, that his kids lived there. He could have cared less. He decided for whatever reason that he wasn't happy and he was mad, so he was going to punish everybody else. This is when I think that my kids and I were in danger, because what was he going to do? He didn't know he was going to get kicked out of the house. What happens if he was still here? What happens if the whole thing never happened, with him smashing his head and I had to call the police and the ambulance took him away and he went to the mental hospital? What if none of that happened? Just he decided not to pay the bills. Well, when was he going to tell me? What was going to happen? He does have access to weapons in the home. And even if he didn't, he could go buy another one. So here I am, completely vulnerable, having no idea what's going on. My ex is keeping secrets from me. He's not paying anything. He's lying to me. I don't know if he was, what would have happened when I suddenly found out, when a sheriff came to the door. I believe, and I don't know this, I'm not trying to be overly dramatic, but I do believe that it was in his mind that he was going to hurt our family, that it was going to, like, you hear about this type of thing on the news. A man just is starting to lose control of everything. And right before his wife is about to find out, he just takes care of the whole situation. He takes everybody out. I don't know. Now, that followed an incident that had happened several months earlier in August. So my daughter and I were woken up in the middle of the night by the police because my ex was found up the street, passed out with a loaded gun next to him. He was right up the street from my house, passed completely out. The police told me it took them a full 10 minutes to wake him up. They were banging and banging and banging on the door. They had to put him in handcuffs because he was so belligerent. And there he was with a loaded gun right there. He was passed out. So we have like a drunk person with a loaded gun, an angry person, a person who wasn't getting narcissistic supply, who was mad at the world. What would happen if I went up to the car, if I saw him, or if my kids went up to the car? The police asked me if we could search the car together. So I was searching the car with the police, and there I see, right there, he had, I can't remember now, it was either 3 or 4 additional clips, besides the one that he had in the gun. So he had dozens of bullets with him, and the police believed, and they said, oh, he must have been thinking about taking his life. Now, my ex never said that. The police said that. He just agreed with them. He never came out and said this, though. So I never believed that. So I thought right then, well, what the heck? Why does he have all these bullets? Why does he have that? What's he going to do? Today, at the time, I thought, and this is what happens to people. You get so confused. This is why I'm trying to tell you, truly understand who a narcissist really is. Because when he's in the mental hospital for a week, suddenly, oh, I'm going to be different. Everything's going to change. You're going to see, oh, I love you. I'm going to be the best husband ever. You'll see, I've been learning so much, and I'm this type of man, or I'm that type of man. I wanted that to be true because I was afraid to end the whole relationship. Now, I didn't want to be with him, but I didn't know what I was going to do because I'd given up a career. And I know several of you have messaged me that you have a similar situation, and I was in that situation too. So I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So when he told me how sorry he was, how he was going to change, he was going to be a different man, he was going to be like this great man, he wanted to start over. Please, please let me do this. I wanted to believe it. Today, I feel like the stupidest idiot in the world for giving him this chance, because I didn't even want to. That's the thing. I didn't want to. I felt pressured. I felt stuck. I didn't think I could get him to leave the house, even though the police told me I could get a restraining order. I was so afraid, that you're in these relationships and you live on fear. But there are too many people that live this way, and they make the ultimate sacrifice. Now, Psychological Bulletin did a study which showed that narcissism is related to an increase in both aggression and violence. It's a risk factor because the inability to empathize, coupled with narcissists believing that they're exempt from rules and social norms, drives them towards violent behavior when they aren't being treated the way they demand. So we're speaking about people who are protective of themselves. My ex would fly into a rage if I crossed one of his lines. Of course, I had to learn those lines. When I was first together with my ex, even though he'd been out of college for several years, you wouldn't have known that from his lifestyle. What I'm about to say sounds ridiculous, and why I stayed is a valid question I had to confront myself with 20 years later. But I can't overstate how important the fraternity he was in college meant to him. There were signs all over the walls of his house. The toilet lid had an engraved brass plaque with people's names from the fraternity who threw up in that toilet. Without any malicious intent, one day I referred to the fraternity as a frat. I had just crossed a line that I didn't know was there. He lost it, and he put his hands around my neck. It was an immediate reaction. I had provoked him. It didn't matter that he supposedly loved me or that I meant nothing by it. Other studies have shown that with or without provocation, narcissists have elevated levels of all types of aggression: physical, verbal, indirect, like gossip, bullying on or offline. Whether the narcissist is male or female is inconsequential. Education level is also inconsequential. Then, of course, there are comorbid conditions such as psychopathy that also contributes to violence. Essentially, what you're dealing with is an unstable person. Narcissists are callous and manipulative. There are many considerations to make when you discover you're involved with a narcissist, but right at the top of the list needs to be your safety. When I think back to the woman I was 20 years ago, I pity her. I had no idea what I was involved with. I had no idea that I actually had value, how I should be treated. My childhood really messed me up. I had to learn the hard way, and I really believe that divine intervention saved me. I made it because God reached down his hand from heaven and rescued me. I try and use my channel to tell you what I have learned and what I wish I had done differently. The thing about narcissists is that we don't know them. We can't. They hide who they are under pain of death. Narcissists know that you will leave if you discover the truth, and they need you to feed their ego. In retrospect, I can tell you this. My ex was physically abusive early in the relationship, and he had other warning signs of violence. He punched walls. He drove aggressively. He had a terrible temper. Now, I grew up believing it was normal for men to have a bad temper. It isn't. He admired criminals, men in the mafia. He idolized his father, and he celebrated his father's out-of-control temper. He openly admitted it. He had no control over anything: his mood, his diet, finances, nothing. And he was never protective of me or the kids, ever. Those were all signs. Those are all red flags that he was trouble. I didn't know my worth. I blamed myself when he acted in ugly ways. It's so crucial if you're in a relationship with somebody. You know this person's a narcissist. You suspect that there's a narcissist, and you see red flags. Do not dismiss it. It isn't possible to be in a relationship with a narcissist and have a happy, stable relationship. They're never going to change, and you are putting yourself and your children at extreme risk. It is not worth it. I know people don't want to be the ones that break up their families. You don't want to upset the kids. You don't want to upset your family. I get that. I do. But we're talking about potentially your life here. You know, I've mentioned her in several of my videos, Shanann Watts, the wife of Chris Watts, the man who seemed like a great guy. Of course, we don't know how he was at home, but he killed his wife. He killed his little girls. If Shanann had suspected it, she didn't leave. And I don't know if she suspected it or not. I didn't think that my ex was violent, but I didn't think he was going to like really hurt my family. In retrospect, I can see I really dodged a bullet, literally. I don't know what he was capable of. So if you suspect that this person is a narcissist, they're cruel, there's red flags, you have to do what it takes to leave. It's scary, I know, but it's the only thing that you can do. You have your life to protect. You have your children's lives to protect. Today, what I want in a man, who Joe is mature, stable, loyal, and peaceful. That's a man. That's a strong man. That's a protective man. Not somebody that is an out-of-control maniac who never puts your safety or your children's safety in any place of priority. Thank you very much for watching this video. I'm always so grateful for everybody who watches my videos. Like I said, if you haven't already, please subscribe. Please like the video. Please leave a comment. Joe and I will be here on Monday doing a video about what? I'm not sure yet. So if you have any ideas, leave them down below. Other than that, I hope everybody has a wonderful Friday and a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Monday. God bless.